You know, Napoleon wasn't actually short. That's just a myth. He was depicted as being short by the British cartoonist James Gilray, and the myth has persisted to this very day. These two figurines were sent in by Jasmin, and she wants to turn them into candles, which means we're back in the land of wax, so we need to make some molds. Let's get going. I want to make simple, easy-to-use molds, and I was thinking about how I'm going to do that, and wandering around the shop, scratching my head, and then I spied this. It's just an empty cardboard tube, a paper roll that has no paper on it left, but it's too small. The radius is good for the ends, so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to cut it and splice it and put it together. Let's go over to the table saw and get that done. I need 2 sets of tubes for each sculpture because I have to cut them extra long. This one's going to be cut about here, and this one about here. So what we'll wind up with is an oblong tube as opposed to a round tube, and that should fit the sculpture a lot better. After you get the pieces cut, it's a simple enough matter to glue them together. I did the first one. Let's take a look at it. It's looking pretty beautiful. Where's my knife? Where's my knife? Just give it a light trim. Perfection is not required, but check it out. Should go right down on top of there. Oh yeah, that's gonna be just perfect. Let's do the next one. It's just the cardboard tubes, and you massage them, and you twist them, and you turn them until they fit together pretty good. Break out the spray mount. Again, all we're trying to do here is just kind of tack the thing together temporarily, because the thing that's going to do the hard work are going to be these strips of paper. Okay, here we go. The reason I'm not going to use spray ment to hold the whole thing together, spray adhesive, is I don't trust it. I just don't trust it. And what I'm not trusting is whether or not there's any volatiles or chemicals or compounds or something in that spray ment that potentially the rubber wouldn't like. I'm always worried about making my rubber and my resin happy. Lay it right down that seam on the inside. Neat and sweet. Same thing one more time. Okay. And now what we do is take our sticks and we're going to clamp the whole assembly together for a couple minutes. It doesn't take long. All right, clamp it up. We'll let that cure up. We'll close up this seam the exact same way. And what we will have at the end of it all is a nice tight box that looks like that. So you can make a really nice tight little mold case out of just something you had, a piece of scrap laying around. Anytime somebody sends me a model and I don't know what it's made of, the first thing I'm going to want to do is test the rubber, because I don't trust this rubber to cure. Now, I poured some liquid rubber on here, same rubber we're going to use to make the mold, and it looks like it cured up just fine. And let's see, indeed, it did cure up just fine. So absolutely no cure inhibition on her. Perfect. Same thing here. How are we doing? Yep, no problem with cure inhibition on this part of it. I checked the base as well because it could have been a different material, but we're all good. No cure inhibition. That means I can go ahead and pour these molds with that rubber. Making the bases is easy enough. Just position it on the wood, hold it in place, get my long skinny mark out pencil, draw all around it. Just doing it by feel because I can't look in there and see how I did. Oh, fantastic. This one's harder because it's deeper. Let's see if I can get my big old hands down in there. You know what they say about men with big hands, don't you? It's not true. Okay, it's time for the most beautiful substance in the entire universe, beeswax. Let's get some melting going on. Here we get going with the bases. Crank it up. The trick to waxing anything with melted wax is to get the cardboard or the wood or whatever it is you're waxing hotter than the wax melts. It's always the same trick. Got to be done. Otherwise, the wax will just lay on top and not soak into the substrate. And you really want it to soak in. You want it to be very, very well coated. That's how this goes. All right, you get the idea. This is not complicated. I'm going to go through, I'm just going to continue this process till I get the entire inner tubes well coated with beeswax. Before we can put these figurines into the mold, we have got to set them up. And the thing about this lady is, she's a molded object. She was designed and sculpted to be molded. And you know that because all of the deep indents are kind of softened, all the lines are softened, there are no sharp, hard edges. There's nothing to trap, absolutely not a trap anywhere in the piece, no undercuts on the clothing. Whoever sculpted this knew that this was a casted piece, and it was 100% sculpted to be cast. So as a result, it's very, very easy to make a mold of because it was designed to be molded. Everything you do is going to be a balancing act between making it really cool and really detailed and really surfacey and undercuts and all kinds of crazy detail, and the ability to capture those details in a mold. Looking at this girl, when we go to fill her, the resin is just going to run down and just rise up, and there's absolutely nowhere, anywhere in the whole piece that can catch bubbles as the resin rises. It's just perfectly designed. So we can put her aside and she's ready to go. She can go into her mold case. Napoleon, on the other hand, not so much. If he's hanging in space like this, the points of the hat are what's going to catch bubbles. You can see how the thing would rise up and the points of the hat would catch bubbles. But if we can tilt him like that, then maybe the bottom point, we don't have to put a vent on. We can fill it and have the resin rise up, push the air up out of this vent, and then as we fill it, tip it up and rise it. And that's what I hope is going to happen. It's not just vents that matter. It's how you position the thing in space that matters. See, if I position him like this, I got problems. I'm going to rise up and it's going to catch, and no way, it's going to catch bubbles, bubbles, bubbles. But if I position him like this, it's going to fill and it's going to rise out. So that's really what mold making is all about. It's not just the vents. It's not just how you're going to get the resin into the mold. It's also how the cavity hangs in space while you're pouring in the casting material. That's the whole secret to doing this. It's time to position these pieces in the mold case, and for that I'm just going to use our Wolf sticky wax provided by Freeman, the same people that provided our blue sprue wax and our sticky wax rods. So one easy way to hold her up so we can put the wax on is just put her in a cup like that. Just going to put some dollops of wax all around. Okay. Get it nice and warm, liquidy, and just go ahead and drop her in. Then I want to make sure that I'm happy with the position. I think she looks pretty good down in there. Same thing. Okay. Ready to go. Let's drop him in. And again, we want to get him right where we want him, right exactly where we want him. Okay, these pieces are ready to pour. I weighed out 1,100 grams of rubber, starting with the hardener, because I like to put the hardener in first. Now let's just go ahead and mix this stuff. I like clear containers too, because then you can see the sides and you can see how well you're mixing. Let's get this into the pot. See if I have enough room in this container. I might not. I might not have enough room in the container. In which case, I'll show you a trick. It looks like it's going to overflow the container. You keep your hand on the inlet nozzle and you blast it. I just let some air into the tank and that knocks it down. You usually only have to do that once or twice. Look at that, look at that. Just had to do it once. Just had to knock it down once, and the sponge will no longer overflow the top. Got the rubber out of the vacuum chamber. Let's pour this thing. I'm going to pour down the back of her in a pretty good dump. Should be able to pour it neatly all the way to the bottom. Pretty sure I mixed up too much rubber for old Napoleon here. Going to have some leftovers, and if I wasn't a chunky user, I'd be very sad right now. But I never throw out any overmix because there's nothing better than overmix for making chunks. Let's pour the second mold, same as we did the first. Pour from the bottom up and let it flow down. I thought I had made too much, but in fact I made almost perfectly the right amount. All right, both molds are filled. We're going to put them in the hot box and let them cook overnight and see what we got tomorrow. This mold is nice and firm and ready to go, so let's cut it open. Beautiful. Oh, look at that. And that, boys and girls, is the power of beeswax. That beautiful beeswax, just let go of that. Perfect. Okay, now we also have to get this off its base. Let's see how hard that sticky wax is on there. Oh, no, just pop. Ooh, that's interesting. This is the extra base. We're only going to have to cut down one side. So let's start. There's only one pour spout. There's no vents in this thing, so there's no landscape to tell me, but I know she's facing forward. This should be her back. So let's just start cutting. The best way to cut rubber is to stretch it. It's really hard to cut it, actually, unless you stretch it. And when you stretch it, it's really easy to cut it. Cuts quick and easy. So that's what I'm doing. I'm stretching the rubber. I'm trying to make a clean, straight line at the model. The great advantage to cut molds is if you start in the wrong direction and you realize, no, I don't want to go down there. I want to follow this line more. Doesn't hurt anything particularly. Yeah, tiny bit extra parting line right there, but it doesn't hurt the mold any. That's the genius of cut molds. Cut molds are surprisingly forgiving, and people use all kinds of devices to hold the mold open while they cut. I don't bother with those things. I used to play with them, but I don't anymore. I just don't bother. I don't think they're necessary. I think they get in the way. I think they slow you down. And once you've cut a few molds, you get used to it, and you don't have to worry so much about those sorts of things. All right, now we're at the point where I may be able to get her out of there without any more cutting. Let's see. Let's see if she'll come out. And if not, we'll cut her a little more. No big deal. Again, one of the big advantages to a cut mold is that you don't have to cut all the way around the model. Now it will come right out. There she comes. Look at that parting line close up. That's what you want to see. That's the parting line that you want to see on the casting. Right there. That's what you're going to get. Beautiful. Okay. We have got ourselves 2 molds ready to pour wax in. But we are out of time for this week. Next week, we're going to pour these things in wax. And Jasmin sent in some soy wax, and the last time we cast in soy wax, it didn't turn out so good. So hopefully this time we'll have a better result. Hey, if you like this video, hit that like button. It really does help the channel. Thanks for watching. I will see you next week. There once was a ship that sailed to sea. The name of the ship was the Billy O.T. And then I don't know what happened then. Something happened then.